Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is the Mad Knives, a 5-album, 5-movie sci-fi concept project. And today we're doing a video from the Drum Grooves series. We're going to talk about what's going on in the drums from the 4th song on the album, which is titled We're on Fire. Let's get into it. Show the logo, play the music. Okay, so the reason that we're going over these drum grooves one by one is because the vast majority of them come out of a drum book that I wrote called The 10/8 Drum Method. Quintuplet Drum Grooves for Modern Backbeat Music. That's where most all of these grooves come from, but hilariously today, and the stuff we're going to talk about for this song, these grooves are not in the book. So, check out the previous videos to see what kind of stuff is in the book. But today we are totally off the radar, doing something a little different and a little unique even for this album. But we are still basing everything around fives, because of course we are. So this song is called We're on Fire, as I mentioned before. And this one is in 5/4 time at 140 beats per minute. And unlike the previous songs where that click track was representing eighth notes in the right hand or in the ride pattern, in this song at 140, these are truly quarter notes. And it's helpful that they're quarter notes because within that, this is swung. So within those quarter notes, we have a triplet pulse instead of a straight eighth note pulse. And all of that is happening within 5/4 time. So it sounds a little complicated at first, but I promise it's not that difficult. So let's get into this first groove and talk about what's going on here. This is what it looks like. And really everything that we're doing today is based around this feel. So we're in 5/4 time with this quarter note pulse. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's what we're doing. Kick drum on the 1. Snare drum on the 3. So in this world, since downbeats and backbeats are very important to me to get the pendulum effect that we're all used to, downbeat on the 1, backbeat on the 3. It's a little lopsided, as is the nature when things are in 5, but that's really the scaffolding for this whole thing. Downbeat on 1, backbeat on 3. And then the only thing about this that is a little more interesting than that is that I'm doing one of these hi-hat stomps where you close the hi-hat with your foot. That's happening on the 4th beat. And then there's a little ghost note here on the snare drum that's happening on the and of the 4th beat, but we're swung, so it's triplet. That's what all this extra notation is. And then a little turnaround, so the kick drum on the 5 and the kick drum on the 1 again. This is the basic figure. Don't worry, it goes by fairly slowly. So let's start by listening to this. Just the drums. This is the first groove for We're on Fire. Okay, so that's how that one sounds just on the drum set. It's fairly slow, so it's not too complicated to count or anything like that. It's really just about the feel and keeping this pendulum effect going between the downbeat and the backbeat with just a little flavor on the end of the measure. Nothing too complex. Now let's hear this in context with some of the music off of this song. Just the instrumental tracks, no vocals on this, so you can hear what's happening. And let's check this out. The verse of We're on Fire. So that's what it sounds like in context. Still fairly basic, a lot of space in this groove, and it's a good thing that there's a lot of space because we are about to eat up all that space in groove number 2. So let's just get into it. This is what groove number 2 looks like for We're on Fire, and it looks like there's a lot going on here, but as drummers, I can give us a touch point. This is a Purdie Shuffle. It's a Purdie Shuffle in this 5/4 format, and we have the downbeat and the backbeat exactly where they were in this first groove. So the downbeat is still on the 1, the backbeat is still on the 3, and even this kick drum pattern is the same. There's still a kick drum on the 5th beat of the measure to give it a turnaround. So really, the meat of this is all very similar to what happened in the first groove. All we're doing now is adding a Purdie Shuffle on top of it. So if you're not familiar with that, there are lots and lots and lots of resources online and everywhere else to hear a Purdie Shuffle, and many people who will break it down better than I will. But it's something that is based on a drummer named Bernard Purdie, and something that he did quite often to great effect in lots and lots of songs, sort of in the soul era in the 60s and 70s, and it even moved into all different kinds of music outside of R&B. I think this very popularly shows up on some Steely Dan songs, and my favorite take of it was always Fool in the Rain by Led Zeppelin, because I'm a Bonham kid at heart, always have been, always will be. So this is what we're doing. A Purdie Shuffle in 5/4. And basically how it is shaped is that we have the first and the third note of each triplet happening in the hi-hat, and then in between them is a ghost note happening on the snare drum. And then the key to making this all work is that you still want your backbeat to be a heavy, accented, full snare drum hit, and the rest of these to be ghost notes. Now we're going to talk a little bit in the end about how to make this function correctly, but let's start and listen to this. I would call this the verse groove for We're on Fire, just the drums. Here we go. Okay, that's what it sounds like. I misspoke. That's not the verse groove, that's the chorus groove. Whatever, you'll figure it out. So that's how it sounds, just the drums. And let me be really honest and transparent here. This is very hard for me. Like, this is very difficult for me to accomplish and to make it flow the way that I want it to. And we're at 140 beats per minute right now. I can barely make it work at this tempo. And when I sat down to play these examples today, it made me realize that when I did the actual drum tracks for this like 6 months ago, I spent a lot of time in the woodshed on this groove. This groove is hard for me. I don't think I could really do it much faster than this right now. And it's hard for all of the same reasons that any Purdie Shuffle is hard. But before we get into all the nuance in this, let's go ahead and hear what this sounds like in context in the song. So here's groove number 2, the 5/4 Purdie Shuffle in context with the instruments from We're on Fire. Here we go. Okay, so that's what it sounds like in the track, and I'm leaving a lot of space in the instrument parts on the track because this drum part is very busy. Like, there's just a lot of notes happening and a lot going on, and I think if I had too much other stuff happening in the instruments, it would really muddy things up. So these are the two main grooves in this song, and they're actually very, very similar to each other. But there's a third thing that happens because I sort of couldn't help myself. I actually modulate from 5/4 time into 4/4 time and back once or twice. So I want to talk about that. And I didn't notate the third groove because it's just a very basic 4/4 groove, super simple, super obvious. But the trick that I'm pulling off, if you want to call it that, is that as I'm modulating, these quarter notes in 5/4 time, and that's what the click will be at 140, those are becoming eighth notes in the 4/4 groove. So I wanted to show you an example just of that modulation, how it happens going from 5/4 to 4/4. And in context, we're actually coming out of the Purdie Shuffle into the 4/4 thing. So it's a big release moment, because not only do we start in 5/4, but we also start in this very busy Purdie Shuffle, and then we move to 4/4, and it's very slow, and there's a lot of space. It's not a busy groove, so it gives this like giant opportunity of relief. And even more than that, this is the first time on the whole album that a 4/4 groove shows up, and it's one of the only times that an actual literal 4/4 groove happens. And we're 4 songs in, so this is, if you're listening to the record the whole way through, this is a giant moment of relief for the audience as a listener. So let's do this groove number 3, modulating from groove 2 into 4/4 time. This is heading into the bridge for We're on Fire. Here we go. So that's what it sounds like, just the drums. You can tell that there's a big sense of relief going from the Purdie Shuffle into the 4/4 groove, not only as a listener, but for me as a performer, because once I can make it out of this very complex 5/4 Purdie Shuffle and into a 4/4 groove at a slow tempo, even I am breathing a big sigh of relief. So let's hear what that sounds like in context, in the song, this transition from 5/4 to 4/4, all the instruments for We're on Fire. Check it out. So that's what it sounds like in the track. In that example, I'm going from 5/4 to 4/4, but I also go back to the original 5/4 groove, and it's very easy because the click track stays constant, the same the whole time. In 5/4 the click is on quarter notes, in 4/4 the click becomes eighth notes. It's not that complex of a modulation. The only thing that makes it a little weird is going from 5 to 4, but it's all happening at such a slow tempo that I think it's very tolerable, and it's very worth trying if you want to sit down and try it out as a drummer. Really not that hard to do, and it's a pretty good metric modulation to see how that feels. So let's talk about how to practice this stuff. Especially for this one, there's a couple things to note. I just talked about in the modulation, the ride is constant. So if you want to practice the modulation from 5 into 4, just remember that the ride cymbal or the hi-hat, wherever you're placing your right hand, that is staying constant with the click track. The one super weird thing is that if you've got the click track in 5/4 time and you've got an accent on the downbeats, when you get into 4/4, that accent is going to move through the measure, and it's going to feel really odd. It'll start, the accent will be on the 1, and then it'll be on the 2, and then it'll be on the 3, and it'll be a little annoying at first, but just like a lot of music, and especially a lot of drumming, is math. If you just tolerate that, the accent will move all the way through the measure and come back to the 1. And when it comes back to the 1, that's a fine place to try to modulate back into 5/4 time, because then you'll have the accent on the click track right where you want it to be. And it's something to practice with. It's going to give you an odd number of measures, but at this point, I think we can all deal with that. So let's talk about how to practice the Purdie Shuffle, because that's something that is a little more complicated, and I think can apply to anytime you play a Purdie Shuffle. So for me, the hard part of a Purdie Shuffle is keeping all of these triplets nice and even, and the thing that will take it apart is when the backbeats come around, at least for me, because I like a really strong backbeat. It's, to me, the whole point of really lots of popular music is that you gotta have a backbeat, whether it's happening in the drums or elsewhere. So I really want the snare hit on the backbeat to snap. Like, I want it to be powerful and to happen. And the reason that's tricky is right after it is a snare drum ghost note. Like immediately after a big snappy backbeat, you have to get in here with a ghost note that is as quiet as you want it to be. You want it to be matching the rest of the ghost notes in timbre. So if you're playing these ghost notes on a certain part of the drum head, like maybe you're a little closer to the rim to try to make them quieter and maybe a little higher pitched, and then you move to the center of the drum head for the backbeats and maybe even do a rim shot. Right after that backbeat, you need to get back to the part of the drum head where your ghost notes were, or at the very least, you're doing like a full up to down stroke and then a small down to down stroke. There's a lot of ways to think about this, and you can get very nerdy about it as a drummer if you get into exactly how you want to handle the physics of the drumstick as this happens. But to me, this is the hard part of a Purdie Shuffle. Strong backbeat followed by a ghost note that falls rhythmically and texturally in the same spot that all the rest of these ghost notes fall. So just like everything else, if you're having a hard time with it, slow it down, especially for this thing in 5. If you're trying to do this in 5, count the 5 and pull off the triplets in the Purdie Shuffle. Just do it as slow as you have to make it work, and then bring it up to tempo. I really had to do that when I recorded this, and today when I sat down to play these examples, I was a little embarrassed that they're still not under my hands the way that they were when I was tracking, and that's just the nature of the beast. This is one of those things that for me, I really have to practice if I mean to perform it, because it is intricate and involves a lot of technique and a lot of feel to get it right. So Purdie Shuffle, get into it. Let me spell that too. P-U-R-D-I-E. Purdie Shuffle. Go watch him play it. He's a delight. Bernard is hilarious and just really so good at this. Like, he makes it feel so natural. That's where you want to hear it if you want to pick it up. Okay, let's do the thing. Even though I mentioned that this particular set of grooves aren't in my book is still a good thing to get if you want to follow through the rest of the drum series. The 10/8 drum method, it's available on Amazon. I'll put the links below. You know how the internet works. Also, besides this drum series on the YouTube channel, we're also doing a couple other series to provide some background into the Mad Knives project. There is a weekly journal entry where I go through what it looks like to build this whole thing in public, because we're still going through this process. There's also a story series, which is very cool if you want to learn more about the plot of the Mad Knives, because we're moving through 5 albums and 5 movies, and there's a story happening. So all of that can be found on the YouTube channel. You can check out even more about the project on the website, themadknives.com, and you can catch me over on Instagram and now on TikTok at The Mad Knives. So do as much of the internet as you would like, and I'll see you there. Other than that, thank you for watching, and I'll see y'all next time.